Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mark Loeffler Experience. We have a great show here for us today. We have Matt Mckeever. I don't know if you guys know Matt Mckeever, but obviously YouTube fame, the Cashflow tribe. He's turning a lot of young guns into great real estate investors and wholesalers. You own a bunch of real estate. You run events. Like, you're all over the map, right? Like, I can't even keep up with all the content you create. I mean, this is a young man's game for as far as I'm concerned, creating that much content.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We definitely are striving to have that omnipresence, just being everywhere and just generating that awareness, really. So definitely lots of events that we host, lots of social media content. And it all just started, attending local networking events and seeing the value in those interactions, and then understand the value behind scaling and being able to have one-to-many conversations like this.
Well, yeah. And again, that's why I started this YouTube channel, so I could have that conversation of one-to-many, because I used to get calls and people ask me questions all the time. I'm like, well, okay, what's the way that I can answer that question? And yet, oh, well, lots of people have that question. So here, just watch this video and then saves my vocal cords a little bit. So
Absolutely.
So you do Cashflow Tribe, correct?
Yep. So I'm co-owners of Cashflow Tribe with Ben Mearson, who goes as the humble CEO.
Okay. Yeah, I've watched some of his stuff. He's good too. And then I see you have Jeff Weibo on there all the time. You guys just did a tour, a virtual real estate tour.
For the last 3 years, we've been doing limo tours where we get investors together. We rent out a limo bus and go around. Now, obviously, COVID-19 put a bit of a hamper on that. So this weekend, we just did our very first virtual limo tour. So just presenting all the different private deals and opportunities that are available that we're aware of as wholesalers as well as realtors.
Yeah. And I mean, I keep seeing it out there. Sorry, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. What's the pitch out there for you want young people, I should say, who want to earn $10,000 a month in real estate? Is that
Yeah, so I've also got I've got a lot of different businesses, but one of the ones that we're always aggressively growing is my wholesale team. And so right now here in London, Ontario, where I'm based out of, we've actually rented out two, I call them McMansions, right? Just new build big houses. And I live in one with all my managers of my business. And then we have a separate house that we've rented out where just all new aspiring wholesalers that have joined our team can move into and really just try and learn through osmosis. So the value proposition we make to them is, it's a one-of-a-kind mentorship and learning experience, but it comes with a certain level of sacrifice. You need to be willing to quit your day job, quit school, whatever that looks like, move into the house and go 100% all in on this. You also have to be comfortable building your own personal social media brand. So we've had people, close up their business to join our team. Shahir dropped out of his third year of university. Another guy was literally 2 weeks away from getting his electrical ticket, and he decided just to opt out and not write the last test in order to get it. So wow, it's been a really interesting journey so far.
Wow, so it's like Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we're essentially trying to recreate that atmosphere here in London with real estate investing.
Nice, that's awesome. What's the guy's name on Silicon Valley who owns the house?
Oh yeah, I know who you mean.
Ehrlich.
I can't think of it. Yeah, Ehrlich. Yeah.
Ehrlich. All right. Oh, good stuff, man. That's amazing. So how many people do you got in the McMansions?
So in this house right now, there's 4 of us living here and 4 guys living in the other house as well. So they're all 4 or 5 bedroom houses, 3 baths. So this all kind of came out of back in 2016. I actually started a YouTube incubator. So I took one of the 6 plexes I owned here in London, Ontario, and it was in a transitioning neighborhood. And the property itself had a bit of a stigma to it. So it was going to be difficult to get a lot of local Londoners just to move in and rent and pay market rents, even though, we had strategically renovated the property and brought it up to a much nicer standard and just turned over all the units. I decided to take on this crazy project and offer free rent for anyone that was willing to make YouTube videos. So the idea was, if you were willing to start your own YouTube channel and make at least 1 video a week, you could move into this house absolutely rent free for a year. And it was just an experiment for me.
Yeah.
Now, I learned a lot with that experiment, and one of the biggest mistakes I made was I didn't bring enough resources into the ecosystem, so people still had a bit of a scarcity mindset. I literally thought, for the average millennial or Gen Z or whatever, that free rent would be enough, but it turns out that there was still that fear that at any moment I would pull the plug, or they didn't have enough money for food or just extracurricular activities. So that was the 1.0 version of this ecosystem. And I kind of consider what we're doing here now to be the 2.0.
So no longer YouTube, no YouTube creator house or anything like that?
Yeah, so it was just a struggle to get people to buy into that ecosystem. I definitely want to explore it a second time at some point down the road. Unfortunately, I think I might have to go to the GTA to do it rather than London, Ontario. I just find a lot of people, I really believe you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, but that's really just a reflection that you are your environment. Yeah. And so I think, unfortunately, London, Ontario is just a little bit too small of a pond or too small of a fishbowl. And so people don't grow to have these big, ambitious dreams the same way that they might in Toronto, or the way that, say LA pulls a lot of dreamers to that city. I think in London, people are just, they want to play it safe too much.
Yeah. Well, I went to Western, so I mean, you got a pull from there, I guess. But again, they're there for a different reason too. So maybe Fanshawe, some guys.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's all. I didn't even know that. Like, how long ago was that?
So 2016, 2017, we ended up getting on CBC radio, being in the London Free Press and stuff like that, just because, even today, most people still don't understand the true value behind social media. But especially like 4 years ago in London, Ontario, the idea that you could move into a house for free and just make YouTube content, it was enough of a hook that we could get some mass media exposure.
Cool, because you're on every social media. Obviously, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't even know
Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I do maybe Facebook and Instagram, and obviously YouTube now, but like no Twitter, no TikTok. That's for the kids, right?
Yeah. So each social media platform has its own place and purpose, in my opinion. And certainly, like at this point in time, to give context to your audience, I do have 4 full-time employees working on my social media and content business. So I don't want to give the wrong impression that like Matt Mckeever is just going crazy on all these fronts. For us, what it really started, and what I'd recommend to anyone looking to break into social media, is like pick one platform to try and crush it in, and you maybe spend 80% of your time on that platform, and then pick 2 or 3 others to dabble in. And dabbling can literally just be a consumer at first. So with TikTok, the first month I was just playing around being a consumer, trying to get a hang of it, what seems to pop, things of that nature. And I think most of us, when we're first breaking into this idea of creating our own personal brand or a business brand around social media, focus on one platform, try and go relatively deep on that, build a real audience base there, and then you can look at transitioning out. So for me, it was YouTube, and then I dabbled on Instagram. Now that we've gotten to a certain level, we take both of those platforms seriously. But now I kind of just dabble on Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And, the 3 that we take seriously are Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
I totally even forgot about LinkedIn. I am on there, and I have like 6,000 friends or whatever they are on there. Connections. Yeah. Obviously I don't pay attention to that much stuff there anyways. But I mean, so yeah, let's talk content creation, right? So you got the Cashflow Tribe, which obviously you're running courses on teaching people how to wholesale and invest in real estate. And obviously you're doing that more virtually now than you ever were. Like, I mean, it used to be live, right? A lot. So
yeah, we used to do a lot of physical meetups and things of that nature. Obviously, social distancing, quarantine, COVID-19, all the curveballs that 2020 has thrown at us has forced us to consistently pivot. But what's interesting is because I have this social media background already, but secondly, just because we're still a new business, we're willing to make those hard pivots right away. So as soon as COVID-19 happened, we're like, okay, let's all get premium Zoom memberships, and we're going to figure out how this works, because it's Zoom or die essentially during COVID.
I mean, you were set up for video, right?
Yeah.
Like you had all, you had everything for video. You knew how to, okay, zoom. I have this camera angle. I have this camera angle. I don't know if you know Pierre-Paul Turgeon.
Yeah, not well, but yeah.
Yeah, multifamily investing. And like, so I was on one of his things, and he has the multiple cameras and he couldn't get one of them to work. And right. I mean, so you guys were already set up for that. Like you were doing that already. So like, this is perfect for you guys.
Yeah. And again, when we see an opportunity, we love to double down. So earlier this year in April, we were supposed to have this great big event where, we were going to bring hundreds, if not thousands of people to London, Ontario for this real estate conference. Everything was set up. It was going to be my third year hosting the conference as well. So it used to go by OREC, so OREC 2018 and OREC 2019.
Didn't you have Graham Stephan there in one of this year? Yeah.
So yeah, Graham's came every year to it. And originally it was going to come down in April of this year as well, just because it's to me, the power of social media. My and Graham's relationship's a perfect example. I started my YouTube channel about 5 months before he started his. And when he decided to break into the game, he started doing just like his own research, right? Stumbled upon my videos from someone posting on it on Reddit. He started consuming the content, reached out, and we just built up a little bit of a friendship because we're both trying on YouTube. And I can remember the first time he showed me his first video, I was like, dude, just stick with it. I was like, you've got the recipe, $1 million listing, sport car, California, LA. I was like, this is like, you've got all the right components. If you just consistently go at it, I was like, you're going to explode. I had no idea that he would explode to the level he has. And it's been impressive just to see both his dedication and hard work as well as the payoff.
For sure. So when I get my Audi R8, that's going to put me right across that finish line.
It doesn't hurt. That step one is having something to flex on, because for whatever reason, it's just human nature, right?
It's like, hey, I got my $4 million 30-unit apartment building right here, but it's not as sexy as this $80,000 car that I have.
Yeah, it's interesting how human psychology works. Though we do find a fair bit of success on our social media with like number flexing as well, or I call it portfolio porn. So really just like talking about the number of doors, the gross rent. Really, people love big numbers.
So I've been going through Casey Wong's things on yours, and like, because him and I run similar businesses. He's a lot more in development now. I don't know if I'm ever going to go there. Just not me, but like we run very similar type of businesses. And I'm like, so why did his get this many and mine only got this? I'm like, okay, well, the thumbnail and the description. So I've been going through that type of stuff, and I'm like, all right, so we're going to start obviously doing that, because it's the same thing, right? It's like, okay, this many units, this much rent, boom.
Yeah, that's what people love. And definitely once we're allowed to start socializing again, I'd be happy to come and we can look at making some videos as well, because again, my audience loves seeing those numbers. They love Casey Wong. Neither Casey or myself knew what to expect from that video. Literally, we'd met at a RAIN networking event, and it had been a year since we'd even talked. And he just sent me a DM one day on Facebook and was like, hey, me and my wife, we've been watching your YouTube channel a bit. You're doing some good stuff. If you ever want to, shoot some videos on me and my portfolio, I'm happy to. And again, he's just such a humble guy. He was like, reminder, you probably don't remember me, but I was that short little Asian guy that buys apartment buildings. I was just and now that I've got to know Casey, it's just so Casey, because I like to think of it, he talks softly, but carries a big stick, right? Yeah. And I think people really resonate with just that been there, done that attitude.
I think he talks softly, and Jed carries a big stick.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, you obviously own a fair amount of real estate too, right? So you have 60,000 followers on YouTube. How many Instagram followers now?
So we're around 8,000. And again,
8,000, okay.
We really focus on growing an organic audience. So never bought or paid for advertising or anything like that.
That's what I'm doing here. But by the way, everybody, if I get to 1,000 by the end of July, I'm doing Russian dancing on the YouTube channel. So,
Nice.
So if Matt, you can help me there. We need to get to 1,000. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go down and subscribe and smash the like button for Matt. So you're YouTube, or sorry. So you have all your content, and then you obviously have a crap ton of real estate.
Yeah, so I originally started investing back in 2010, did a house hack, started buying a couple of small student rentals.
Okay. So slow down there. What's a house hack?
So house hack is really just buying a property and either having roommates or buying a multifamily living in one of the units and subsidizing your personal cost of living. And for myself, I'm really glad I just discovered the idea of financial independence, retiring early at a young age, because that's what really set me up to want a house hack.
Yeah.
So if you look at the statistics, Stats Canada shows us the average Canadian spends about 30-40% of their income on shelter. So that includes like your housing and your utilities in essence. So if you can find a way to live for free by house hacking or rent hacking. So for myself, what that looked like was buying an underperforming student rental, moving into one of the bedrooms, having a bunch of buddies move in, and being able to pay for everything, like including my insurance, internet, everything, and get to live for free as well. And, people talk about the latte factor and things of that nature. And while there definitely is a power in minimizing your consumption, if you to me, living for free is the big domino. If you can all of a sudden save 30-40% of your income, you no one else can touch you at that point from a comparison standpoint.
Where did you learn about that? Because I house hacked and I have no idea. This was just like, hey, I don't want to pay for housing. So, buy a triplex, live in one, have a roommate, have, girlfriend move in or whatever, and then rent the other 2 units and you live for free. So.
So for myself, like a lot of investors, my gateway drug was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Same,
So
I read that a lot.
book. Yeah, found that book in university. And then that always just had me interested in real estate. But then in my early 20s, once I started my first full-time job, I stumbled upon a blog called $1 Million Journey. And so it was a Canadian blog focused just on this guy trying to, save an average Canadian trying to save up or make $1 million. Yep. And at one point in time, he referenced another blog called Early Retirement Extreme. And Early Retirement Extreme, written by Jacob Lund-Fisker. And he's an exceptional individual, like an astrophysicist that decided he was going to solve the money problem. And so he just came out with a very rational, logical approach. And he just broke it down and showed how he was able to live an average lifestyle in Southern California for $6,000 a year. I was like, man, you're living in one of the best places in the world to live and at a cost that no one else would even consider possible.
Question though, who lives cheaper, him or Graham Stephan?
Oh man, Graham is frugal. And the funny thing is, I think some people think that it's a show, but I've spent time myself and Jeff back in 2017 flew out and spent a week or 2 with Graham, just crashing on his couch and stuff. And he's very efficient and very driven. And that's what's allowed him to get to his level of success, to be honest, is just he's very focused. So while I like to dabble with a bunch of things on YouTube and I'll go off in weird directions, every now and then Graham will just message me and be like, dude, what are you doing? That's not good for the algorithm. I'm like, I know, but I just wanted to see what would happen.
Well, I think I messaged you the one time. I'm like, I'm watching some of your stuff and they're not monetized. And you're like,
Yeah, I mentioned COVID, which just gets me immediately demonetized.
Yeah. So, okay, back to real estate, because I can talk YouTube and content all day long, but the majority of the people here are for real estate or learning and growing, that type of thing. So you started out, you were house hacking, you bought a couple student rentals.
Yeah, and then bought a house a year. So from 2010 to 2014, bought a house a year. And then in 2014, I decided I'd buy 2 houses that year. So I was really starting to step up my game. And unfortunately, like a lot of Canadians, I stumbled into that 5 mortgage limit. And back then, I wasn't networking. I wasn't talking with other investors. I was kind of on an island onto myself. Yeah. And so I can remember getting into a big argument with CIBC where they're like, yeah, you can't get 5 mortgages. And I was like, no, there has to be Canadians that own more than 4 properties. I was like, I've met some of them. This is doable, guys. And they're like, if you go double your income and have 100,000 liquid, we'll give it to you. So I literally went on just a campaign focus on trying to double my income. So at the time I was working in public accounting as a CPA. I ended up switching kind of career paths, working for a publicly traded pharmaceutical company, trying to climb that corporate ladder as fast as possible, just so that I could make more money, so I could buy more real estate, so I could quit my job it was a really weird feedback loop I found myself in.
That is really weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it took 2 years off of real estate from essentially late or early 2014 until like late 2015. And then was finally able to buy another property at that point. Thankfully, I discovered the BRRRR investment strategy, which really allowed me to accelerate my growth because I was able to preserve my capital and was able to attract joint venture partners because my pitch here in London, Ontario, we can still today, but it used to be a lot easier, get properties that would meet the 1% rule that you could do a perfect BRRRR on, which meant
so for
all
everybody,
the money you put in. Yeah.
What's the 1% rule?
So yeah, 1% rule is one of the best rules of thumb, in my opinion, to determine whether a property will cash flow or not. So the 1% rule is really just looking, 1% of the purchase price should equal your monthly gross rent. So if I buy a property for $100,000, I want to rent it out for $1,000 a month.
And you can still do that in London right now, today.
Yeah, you can still do that.
June 22nd, 2020.
Yes. And so immediately I'm going to get flamed because people are going to be like, I went on realtor.ca and I didn't see a single one. And it's like, no. So you're not going to find a turnkey 1% rule property on the MLS. You can find them privately sometimes, or you can find properties with potential that need to be stabilized or renovated or flipped to bring it up to its highest best use. But with a little bit of ingenuity, you can absolutely still accomplish that here in London.
Yeah, I'm just racking my brain here. I'm like, when I finish my apartment buildings, am I at the 1% rule? I don't even know. I'm gonna have to go back and look now. I think I'd probably be pretty close.
Yeah, and so just kind of building upon that, the 1% rule, when we talk about it, normally I'm referring to it with the landlord paying utilities. So often if the tenants are paying utilities, if you're at like a 0.9 or even a 0.85% rule, and the tenants are paying for their own electricity, or ideally electricity, water, and heat, you'll find that you'll get similar cash flow as if, you were collecting 1%, but paying for all utilities.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay. So you've got the BRRRR strategy going. So what did you kick that up to? A couple a year or?
Yeah. So 2015, 2016 started acquiring more aggressively. And at the same time in 2016, the pharmaceutical industry started going insane. So like we got into some really complex business models in my work where we're doing like tax inversion schemes to re-domicile in a new country to lower our tax rate and all that stuff. And that ended up making us very attractive acquisition targets. And we also were aggressively trying to acquire other pharmaceutical companies. Long story short, we acquired some, we got acquired. And in early 2016, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, man, this satellite office in London, Ontario doesn't make sense anymore for a multinational, behemoth. So when I originally joined that pharmaceutical company, our market cap was like 25 million. By the time I left, we were over $250 million in market cap. So it literally had 10x over the span of less than 3 years. And so I like to say in 2016, I jumped out of the plane without a parachute, but I trusted I had the right instructions that I could build the parachute before I hit the ground. Yeah. So I ended up quitting my day job back in 2016 and just going all in on real estate.
You didn't get a package?
So I negotiated a few things. So it was a complicated, so like I got 2 retention bonuses. So like, don't quit your job and we'll pay you extra money. And then when I tried to negotiate my 3rd retention bonus, they were like, no, we're done with you. I was like, cool, I'm done with you too. And so I just left then. I knew that like there eventually becomes a trade-off where had I stayed, I would have got another package when they let everyone go. But I knew that I was going to have to wait 6 months and it was just going to crush my soul. So literally like they flew in consultants from New Jersey that were just very aggressive, didn't fit with our existing corporate culture. And one of my staff members, like they literally made her cry 3 days in a row. And on the 3rd day, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I was like, this is wrong. Your business model's wrong. Like, and I just had like one of those like blow up moments. It was very cathartic. And then it's kind of a funny story, but then the consultant blew up on me and, he was like, we're going to just like, it got aggressive, but like, without our reference, like you won't be able to go anywhere in this industry, da, da, da. And I was like, oh, sorry. You think I quit? I'm retiring. I was like, I'm never going to be in this industry again. Like I'm done. And actually one of the proudest moments in my life was right after I gave that notice and he blew up on me, I then wrote a really long, nuanced email to our new HR department with dates, times, and witnesses to all of the bad behavior. And I was actually able to get that consultant the next day barred from our London campus. And he had to fly back to New Jersey same day to explain why he had created such a hostile work environment. And it was something that had I not started investing in real estate, had I not got control of my personal finances,
Right.
I wouldn't have been in that position. So I was fortunate enough to be in control of my financial journey at that point. But at the same time, a lot of my peers in the company that had like VP titles, like there was, middle-aged men. I can remember one particular 55-year-old that like, he broke down crying at the boardroom table because he didn't know what was going to happen, right? Like he was like, I might have to move cities in order to be able to keep the same sort of compensation package because, again, London, Ontario is not a massive market. So there's only so many
definitely
jobs.
Not for pharmaceutical either.
Yeah, so there's only so many jobs at that level. And I can just remember being so thankful that I'd set myself up in a position where I actually had the freedom to speak my mind and do what I felt was right at the time. So then in 2016, went all in on real estate and actually made more money that first year of real estate than I had like the previous couple years, just because all of a sudden I had all this freedom, all this bandwidth, and I ended up acquiring 32 units in 2016,
Nice.
just by aggressively going all in on real estate.
And what's the biggest units? Like no single families, but all multis or?
Yeah, so right now I'm actually going through that transition period of upgrading from the little greenhouses to the red hotels, right? As people like to talk about with Monopoly. So in my personal portfolio, I've got just about 100 units scattered from single family to a 20 unit. I'm actually selling all those properties this year. And last year, myself and Jeff Weibel and a couple other business partners set up a new entity that's aggressively acquiring purpose-built apartment buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And in that entity, we've got maybe 60 units right now, and we'll be closing on another 30 this week. And the goal with that business is really to acquire about 200 units a year in that entity, build it up to 1,000 units. So the idea would be, in a perfect world, we'd end up with 100 million under management within 5 years. Now,
nice.
I know enough about this business that everything changes. So who knows?
Yeah.
Like 5 years from now, I might be like, oh, it turns out we started this whole other business or enterprise and we pivoted hard. But that's the current plan.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, even if you do it in 8 years, or hey, you know what, you might have 400 after 4 years, and then in that 5th year, it's like, oh, 400 units, here we go, right? That's just how that works too. Like you could you could run into somebody and they own a huge portfolio and it's time for them, and it's like, okay, let's do a deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, and structure it properly and do everything. So you're starting to get into my space. Is it just in London or what?
Yeah, so right now we're aggressively going in London. We'll look at anything across southwestern Ontario, but it seems the further up the 401 we go, the more expensive it gets. So
Definitely.
we have no intentions of moving past Brantford, and even Brantford, it's difficult for me to make the numbers work in Brantford based upon what people are selling their multifamilies for now.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now primarily London, a little bit of Sarnia, Chatham, and Windsor, but really London's the focus. And again, even London is changing dramatically. So one of the properties we bought last fall, we acquired for like $95,000 a unit. And this spring there was a property very similar that sold for $146 a unit. And we're just like, so we're very much focused on private deals now, a lot of relationship oriented dealings, and just, it is an interesting time to be breaking into the multifamily, like the purpose-built multifamily sector, just because there's a lot of baby boomers that are reaching the end of their journey. And what we find is a lot of their kids grew up too close to the business. So dad or mom dragged the kids along, used them as free labor. The kids hate the idea of real estate now. They don't associate the financial success their parents had with the real estate their parents have. So there's a bit of a disconnect there, which often allows like us to step in like the prodigal son and get some really cool VTBs.
That's true. I mean, we're just buying one right now. And again, we got a $1.5 million VTB on it just because, well, COVID and different things, but it definitely helped us buy it for very little money down. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right. Well, I know I don't want to take too much of your time, and I try to keep my videos under half an hour with everybody. So, like, what are your words of wisdom for everybody watching this channel?
Yeah, there's a lot of different directions I could go with that. For me, what it comes down to, one of the biggest frustrations I have is I've now created over 650 videos on my YouTube channel. There's literally just like hundreds and hundreds, thousands of hours of content there. And yet I've got 60,000 plus subscribers, yet I know I haven't created 60,000 investors. And what really separates the people that end up watching my videos and getting success and the people that watch my videos and don't get success is taking action. So in 2020, I made a commitment to myself and my audience that the number one thing I was going to push was make more offers, get more deals. And it sounds like a very simple concept and principle, because it is, but it's also actually quite important, because I don't know how often, I'm sure you get this too, Mark, where you're talking to an aspiring investor and they're like, man, it's just so hard out there. I can't get any deals. I'm like, totally. How many offers have you made this month? And they're like, I haven't made an offer yet. I'm like, well, there's your problem. Like, you're not starting the conversation. And it's something that my wholesale team, whenever we get a new wholesaler, they always struggle with this at first, because they're like, oh, I verbally offered this. I'm like, doesn't count.
No,
I was like, until it's on paper, no one trusts you. I was like, if they can't even trust you to fill out the paperwork, why should they trust you with millions of dollars in assets? So it really comes down to just getting out there, making those offers, and understanding a conditional offer is just that. Way too often people treat making an offer as if like, well, now I'm bonded to this property for life. I'm like, no, that's when the fun starts.
That's it. That's when the due diligence starts. That's when you actually start the hard work. Like, everything before that is just skin level, and then you dig deeper, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So guys, I've talked to you about this a lot on the channel, is take action. Like, if you take action, and even if you screw everything up, well, that's why you have a fail safe and you have your conditions. Like, it doesn't turn out to be as good as you thought. Oh, well, next, right? But again, I say this a lot too. It's simple, not easy. Everybody knows what to do, yet getting off their ass and doing it, sometimes hard, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Ferriss has an amazing quote on that subject, really, where he simply says, if more information was the answer, we'd all have six-pack abs and be millionaires.
Yeah.
Because like both exercise and making money, they're actually quite simple endeavors, but that doesn't make it easy, right? Like, there's still hard work involved. You still have to put in the effort. You got to take the first step. That's
right. Well, good stuff. So Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, subscribe so you see Russian dancing. And, you know, if you guys think Matt should come visit the apartment buildings once we can actually socially gather, comment down below. All right, guys, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Thanks, Mark.